Forget your former managers, ignore the ex-pros. As football fans, we all know the real experts drink in pubs. It's funny, it's argumentative, and often it's just plain wrong. Welcome to the Foss Arms Public House and welcome to the Leicester City Pubcast. Hello everyone, welcome to an ecstatic Foss Arms. Yes! Get in there! Leicester City are going to the FA Cup final. Get in there. Good evening, Norm. How are you?
Elated.
And Killer, good evening. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm just laughing at Norm's voice. Norm has got that slightly deeper, we're going to Wembley voice.
We've got virtually no voice left. We've got a slightly different format to usual to today's podcast. We're clearly going to be talking about this monumental occasion for the club, first time since 1969 in most Leicester supporters' lifetimes, it's fair to say. Absolutely terrific story. And then we're going to be talking about that. And then we're going to also touch on this nightmare European Super League and any implications it might have from a City angle. But there's only one place to start, Norm. I'm going to say three words to you. K. Sarah.
Absolutely magnificent, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, look, if the excitement of our first FA Cup semi-final wasn't enough, do want to say a massive, massive thank you to our friend Clive, who's a Club Wembley member and a West Ham fan, who very, very kindly, knowing we were Leicester fans, gave us 3 tickets for myself, Tim, and another friend, John, for the actual semi-final. And it was so very, very kind of him, and to take part in the trial and actually be there, set the excitement levels at levels I can barely explain. But I'm probably more nervous about having to get the COVID negative test to be allowed in. The thought of not being able to attend the game after so long was filling me with dread. But thanks, Clive. Feel so incredibly lucky to have managed to get to the game. And to cheer on the team and enjoy the atmosphere. It really was, incredible. And it really felt like everybody in that stadium was a Leicester fan. That's how good it felt. So having said all that, I can forgive Perez another poor performance. I can forgive Ricardo, arguably his worst performance in a Leicester shirt. I can forgive the poor fare that both teams served up on, which is normal for a semi-final. Although I have to say, the back three of Evans, Surnche and Fofana, I thought they were immense. I mean, Southampton didn't really get a sniff, but it all pales into insignificance, doesn't it? When you watch Vardy turn his man, and he's been getting a bit of stick lately, not from Leicester fans, but a lot of people thinking he's, struggling a bit. But what he still gives to this team, we cannot take that away from him. Turning his man, charging into the box, playing it to, whilst it looked like it was probably meant for Castagna, the spirit of Leicester. Iheanacho provides the finish. Oh my God, just the thought of jumping up and down in a stadium was just so magic. And the final whistle, to know we were in the FA Cup final for the first time in my lifetime, and as you alluded to many Leicester fans' lifetimes, and to be able to celebrate that fact. Oh my God, I'm just utterly lost for words. And what an opportunity now we have to get rid of the tag of the team who have been to the most cup finals without winning. Come on, roll on the 15th of May, and please, please, please make it a day that we will never, ever forget.
And why not? It's just all gone so well, isn't it, with Man City getting knocked out by Chelsea. That's not going to be an easy ride. Chelsea are 1-2 and we're 6-4 today, but that feels probably about right. But hey, we are well used to playing the plucky underdog. As Norm quite rightly said, he and I were lucky enough to go along, and it really was a very, very different experience. 4,000 fans in there, the COVID test before, needing to be done within a 24-hour period, and it's going to be quite interesting to see how, if post the 21st of June and life is normal, they managed to do that for 90,000 people. It's very straightforward security, but obviously then in the ground, it was a very, very strange experience. But yet again, it was absolutely clear that Leicester were by far the biggest supported of the two sides. I don't know, Killer, did that come through on the telly or not?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it did sound, because you know what it's like. I mean, it doesn't. Sometimes you don't always pick up the atmosphere, do you? It did sound really echoey, as you can appreciate. But yeah, it did look like Leicester had the nod. Obviously, I think they made the point of trying to sort of suggest that whilst there was mainly neutrals, there might have been a few people who got in. So I think they were trying to sort of do an even spread of identifying a few Saints fans and stuff. But yeah, look. We do know that Leicester are one of those teams where we could play anywhere and we would somehow always get people going. So yeah, it's all very good.
And there were two or three things that sort of stood out for me during the evening, really. So the first one, and again, we're going to touch on this Super League later, and this complete lack of class that these clubs have got. Our club is full of class, and there was a very interesting moment at the start, and it may have played to the support that City had, albeit out of 4,000 people. Clearly, the vast majority of people in that stadium, in principle, were neutral. Although there were a nice little knot of Leicester fans near us, actually. But both sides ran out to before the kickoff. And again, I don't know if this came through. Southampton ran out and started kicking the ball around, warming up as usual. Ultimately, they're in a neutral stadium. Fair play to them. Our players went out, applauded one end, ran up the other end, and applauded that end. And that had obviously been thought through by someone, and that is just typical of our club. I don't think they were doing it for any cynical reason. Please support us. They were doing it to say thank you to the NHS workers. And I just thought, yet again, spot on the money, Leicester City Football Club. I thought that was superb. The other thing, and a really, really great moment, at the end when the players came off and filed down the tunnel, Brendan Rodgers, there was about 6 or 7 of us screaming, Brandon, we've done it, punching the air. And because of the nature of the empty stadium, he could actually hear us. And he looked up and he punched the air, mimicking what we were doing. And that was a really, really lovely moment. And then to cap it all off, on the way out, we actually saw Christian Fuchs as well. And he gave us a big smile and a big thumbs up as he was waiting for his blacked out, expensive car, whatever it was. So there's a few nice touches that you wouldn't normally get. But certainly a very, very strange experience. And for me, it took some of the nerves away. Which I was quite grateful for. But Killer, let's get into the match a little bit. It was a desperate affair for the neutral, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, not one for the neutral. It was not a Sunday afternoon classic. Totally echo what Norm said. Absolutely immense. I can't remember ever. I've watched Leicester City now since I was about 7. I can't remember ever watching Leicester City play anyone at any level, and the opposition literally had not one single chance. The back three and Ndidi were that good. Absolutely immense. From Leicester's point of view, you don't want to be too critical, but of course I will take the opportunity. And the reason I'll take the opportunity because I thought Perez was a strange pick, especially given the fact that obviously he decided the week before that actually rather than train and keep himself clean, ready for the West Ham game, that it was more fun to invite everybody around his house and stuff. He was rubbish. I thought he was rubbish. I thought Maddison, when he came on, whilst he offers something, again, off the pace. Lesson learned, boys. Just look after yourselves and try and keep yourselves in the best shape that you possibly can. We just had that little bit more class in other areas, didn't we? Vardy, superb. Ricardo, I don't know what's happened to him. We'll talk about him maybe another time because it was pretty tragic. Castagno, I thought, was absolutely brilliant. Tielemans has got that killer pass. They just didn't really turn up, did they, at all? Which again, I'm not complaining about. It was a 1-0 game, if ever there was a 1-0 game. But one thing's for certain, nobody cares. It was semi-finals, quarter-finals, all about results. Let's just have a little say-so about Kelechi, by the way, because it's worth bearing in mind. He has single-handedly scored the winning goal in quarter-final, semi-final, and the 5th round. It's quite something what he's achieved. Let's be honest, he was always going to score, wasn't he? You just knew it. I don't know why Glenn Hoddle gave him the man of the match. I thought his overall game wasn't particularly good. He was always going to score. And of course, when it dropped for the second time on that left foot, you just knew what it was going to do. It was going to hit the back of the net. And it was one of those games when it hit the back of the net, you thought to yourself, I think this is going to do it. I do think this is going to do it. We had plenty of chances for the second. Maddison looked like he could have hit the net a couple of times, but doesn't make any difference. We're through. It's a tough game against Chelsea on the 15th. But isn't it just absolutely brilliant to finally see us in an FA Cup final?
Absolutely brilliant. We've got plenty of weeks to think about it. Just touching on the Perez choice, I was surprised and disappointed, and I put it down to the fact that extra time was a possibility, and he obviously was worried about Maddison's fitness. But I think, Norm, we talked about James Ward-Prowse and the team, and you mentioned the defenders quite rightly, Killer. The team were very disciplined about not giving Ward-Prowse a shot from a free kick. I think that was very, very well done by us. He was kept largely quiet. And then, to Killer's point, Norm, once Maddison replaced Perez, didn't we see the gulf in class there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look, I mean, I was moaning a little bit about Perez and Ricardo, but look, it's as Killer said, it's the semi-final. It's only the result that matters, and we were very disciplined. The defence were great. We did the job. Maddison came on. I thought he did look a bit bright, maybe a little bit off the pace at the beginning, but I thought he was. You can see what he can bring to us. I think Rodgers has subsequently come out and actually said that he's not quite at the fitness levels he needs to be starting. So I think that's obviously why he didn't start. I mean, hopefully he'll have a couple of days training before the West Brom game on Thursday, and we'll be able to start. So I think that'll make a big difference for us. But yeah, look, it's the result that matters, and you're right, Killer. Kelechi was bound to score, and apparently is the leading scorer in the FA Cup competition since 2015, something like that. He's scored more goals than anybody else in that competition, which is, again, credit to him. And with that goal yesterday, becomes the season's leading scorer for Leicester. And who would have thought we'd have said that?
Yeah.
So thank you, Kelechi.
Thank you, Kelechi. Thank you, Brendan. Thank you, all the team. You didn't go in 82, Norm, did you? Did you go, Killer?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
You went, and what can you remember about that?
Well, not a great deal, because I think I mentioned to you on a previous show, I was about 2 foot tall, and my uncle took a little crate for me to stand on, because I was actually in the big Holt end. It was half the Leicester fans were in the Holt end, the other half were Spurs. I do remember vividly that before the game, or the lead up to the game, that Jot Wallace was very bullish about our chances. He said we're going to win. Don't worry about it. We're good. But that was a little bit Jot Wallace at the time. We went there obviously as underdogs. We played a good Spurs team. They had people like Glenn Hoddle played. They had our dealers, Gareth Crooks, so a good side. And we just didn't really quite turn up. So the whole game was really, really, really disappointing. And just really nice to have, on the next semi-final, because, to think it was so long since the last one, that we just won the game. It was just all about winning the game, wasn't it? We did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing opportunity now for a few weeks to look forward. And Norm, it is Chelsea rather than Man City, which just, it just gives us that shout, doesn't it? That I think if you'd envisage that we're sitting here tonight talking about it being Man City in the final, I think in our heart of hearts, we'd probably be quite pessimistic, wouldn't we? With it being Chelsea, I mean, I was trying to think if there's two more evenly matched teams in the Premier League at the moment at any point up and down the league. And I think Leicester and Chelsea is probably as close as it gets.
Yeah, I think that's a really good shout. I think it actually makes for what should be a pretty decent final. I think whenever you play Man City, you're never really expecting too much from the game, are you? You know how good they can be. But if we turn up for the final, which I'm sure we will, I think we can put on a really good show. And I think it'll be a really good game between two, decent sides. And let's be clear, Chelsea are a good side. I mean, it's going to be absolutely no pushover, but it's going to be no pushover for either side. And I think the odds you mentioned there kind of reflect that. It's not far off a 50-50 game, really. And that just makes it really, really, really exciting. And, I can't believe it's been 52 years since we were last in an FA Cup final. I mean, the fact that we're not a huge club, but kind of feel we ought to have been there a little bit more than us. And with everything that's gone on with which we're going to discuss shortly about the Super League, I'm pretty sure it's fair to say there's not a neutral in the country that will be wanting anything other than a Leicester victory on the 15th of May.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, we do have a few non-Leicester listeners. It is important to get over why this cup's so important to us. And it is that when we were growing up and getting dominated by Forest and, even Derby were better than us, it was not realistic for a club of our size to win the top division. And we know we went on to do that. So this has been the dream and the hope for so long. And I mean, I don't know, Killer, did you get any? You must have got a few. The phone must have been beeping a bit yesterday evening.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. Social media caught fire with the fact that it's that we got to the final and stuff. It's the missing piece of the jigsaw, really. And I remember going back to the Martin O'Neill years and the very first League Cup final. It's the only time, it was on the semi-final at Selhurst Park. It's the only time I've ever attended a football match with tears in my eyes, because I thought to myself, I'm going to watch Leicester at a domestic cup final. If you had turned round to me then and said, actually, you're going to see Leicester 3 times in the League Cup. Oh, and by the way, you're going to watch them lift the Premier League title, and I'm going to throw in an FA Cup final as well, plus a decent run in the Champions League, you'd have turned around and gone, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Feels like it's the missing link. Look, it's going to be a tough game, but even if we were to lose the game, it's not particularly nice thought. To some extent, watching your team walking out at Wembley, cup final, showpiece occasion. I know there won't be any. Well, there will be some fans. Sounds like we're going to get about 4,000 tickets, 20,000 overall, and stuff. Forget that. It's been a lousy 12 months for everybody. We missed football for a long time. Isn't it great that actually when the season got going, we performed really well in the league and a cup final as well to boot. Just fabulous, fellas.
Yeah, and it does reinforce the point, and I think made the point last week or the week before. This club is not choking. This club is not falling away. And it would have been easy to choke yesterday. Southampton have nothing else to play for at all. Felt like they didn't put on a great display, but as they were moving the ball through the midfield at times, I was worried. And I was particularly worried after the West Brom result that they'd had. I thought, blimey, they're saving themselves for this. So it could easily have gone wrong, and we put in a really, really professional display. And we'll look ahead a bit more to Chelsea nearer the time, which ironically, 15th of May, of course, the weekend we should have been playing them in the league, with a sense of irony there. But I mean, just to touch on them for a minute, and my thoughts are that they've got a couple of decent players in the midfield sort of area. Clearly, Kante, Mason Mount, if you want to include that. I don't think up front they've got too much that we should be worried about. And I reckon you can get at them at the back, Norm, as well.
Yeah, I think we can certainly get at Chelsea, and I don't see any reason why we can't score a couple of goals. I have to be honest about Chelsea's strikers. Giroud worries me because I always feel that he's the kind of guy that tends to score against us. Big, good in the air. So I would like to see him not playing. I'd much rather them stick with kind of a Havertz and Werner. Because I think we'll have a much better chance with those very expensive but seemingly not quite so good at the moment players. But I hope I'm not cursing us with that. But look, it's a massive challenge. But they should be as worried about us as we should be worried about them. We've got a great side, and yesterday's result is going to see us kick on for the rest of the season. And what a great thing to look forward to. And the players playing for a place in the final. I mean, the next few games, eminently winnable. So, come on, Leicester, let's do it.
Yeah, and Kelly, intrigued you mentioned 4,000 tickets. I thought there might be a few more than that. I think they're talking about 20,000, aren't they? I can't, in these times and in this situation, I can't imagine too many of them would be corporate. There might be, I guess there'll be some NHS ones again. Where did you pluck the 4,000 from? East
Midlands News. East Midlands News. They literally put the whole. They just moved their cameras to outside the club shop, and the figures that were given were the 20,000 available, 4,000. I suppose on a percentage basis. If you think about it, normally it's 90,000 for an FA Cup final, you get about 18,000. So I'd imagine percentage wise, probably about the same. So yeah, 4,000 guys. I'm going to finish the show in a minute, and I'm going to move my sleeping bag down to the stadium. So won't be available for the next couple of weeks, I'm afraid.
I mean, to be fair, those kind of figures sound about fair. I mean, the final's still going to be a test event, so having too many people travelling too far is possibly still a bridge too far at the moment. So they want to make sure everyone's safe and secure. And it's great that the NHS workers are going to get tickets. Don't begrudge them that one little bit. Utterly deserve to be able to go and see, hopefully, a fantastic football match. And like I say, the neutrals will be on our side anyway. So I'm sure a lot of the NHS people will be supporting the Foxes for us.
I'm sure they will, and certainly all the rest of London as well. So, yeah, brilliant. Well done, City. Well done, Brendan Rodgers, and well done, the team. Thank you for giving us this. And it's just such a great thing for us to now to look forward to for a few weeks at the end of a really particularly torrid year for Leicester. No one has had it worse than Leicester. And this just feels like a really just reward. Now, for every good story has to have a villain as well as the good guy, doesn't it? And just as we were settling in to watch the match, the news was breaking that these reptiles running the Big Six clubs. I hope you can see my little speech marks there around that, on the basis that 9th place Arsenal are one of them somehow. I have contrived to create this Super League and everything that you will already have read about. So we're not going to bore you too much with the detail of what's happening. Killer, initial reaction? I'm fearing for your cat again.
There is a bit about that. Look, I'll just echo what everybody else has said much more eloquently than I'm going to say as well. The one thing I think all 6 football clubs will be surprised about is the reaction. Because there isn't just a massive reaction in terms of the football world, which I think they would have probably expected. Actually, this is opening news story on the BBC National News. You've got Boris Johnson's got involved in the debate. You know what I mean? This has now all of a sudden become an absolutely enormous story. And if you think about it and you follow it through, there might be an argument to say, well, it's not going to affect the Premier League, is it? Presumably it's only going to affect the Champions League. But it isn't, because you know exactly where this is going, where this is going to evolve. 12 football clubs, they're already talking about it being more. Let's call it 18, let's call it 20. Well, it becomes a league. then all that's going to happen is that those 6 clubs will drop out the domestic league and will only play in the European League. And obviously then they will set up their own cup competition. It's just absolutely horrific. And the more you think about it, the more you shake your head. All I would say is if I was one of the organisers of this huge circus, which is going on at the minute, is just stop for a second and have a think about it, because we've seen changes in our lifetime. We've seen changes to the formats of league and the structures of league. We saw the Premier League come about and everything that Sky brought to the table. And all football fans to a man sort of went, yeah, that sounds really positive. We saw a change from the European Cup to the Champions League, where all of a sudden it wasn't the team that won your league. It was the top 2, the top 3, top 4, then competed into the little mini league before it went into knockout. Again, there was plenty of support. I can't remember any change in football in terms of structure that has had 99% of fans, all of them, even fans of those 6, saying, no way, I'm not getting involved in it. This sounds absolutely rubbish. Now, without fan support, I think the whole thing's on really dodgy ground. Now you've also got UEFA turning around and saying we're going to ban anybody that plays to playing a World Cup and playing in the European Championships. Apparently, the Premier League, 14 clubs that aren't involved are meeting tomorrow. Obviously, now we have the opportunity for those 6 clubs to take massive point deductions. Don't rule out a second Fox's Premier League win, guys, on the back of that, will you? Yeah, suddenly becomes favourable if they all get deducted 30 points, and it's us and West Ham. Us and West Ham in a shootout.
What price can you get on us for the double, Killer?
Well, yes, good point, actually. Very, very good point. But do you know what I would say? I mean, I'll shut up talking in a minute and let you two have your say. Okay, but to some extent, I sort of, as the day went on and you reflect on it and stuff, you end up thinking to yourself, could we have expected anything else, really? If you think about what's happened in our game, we've got foreign owners owning foreign football, owning domestic football clubs, and some of the richest people in the world. You take Manchester United, for instance. Apparently, you never see the Glazers at the game. You never see them. You just don't even see them there. They sort of carry so little interest in the fortune of the club beyond the balance sheet. And when you start thinking about it in those terms, you start to think to yourself, actually, is this such a surprise? Have we actually reaped what we sow? Has the Premier League, and it's been on that cusp, isn't it, for a while, of almost being toxic. Some of the wages that are going on, you know, you've got Bale on £500,000. Harry Kane apparently touted that his new contract could be pushing £1 million. Raheem Sterling 400 grand. You've got players at football clubs that don't even play earning $250,000 a week. To some extent, you almost think to yourself, maybe this was simply the trajectory that it was always heading towards. Should we be surprised? Surprised? No. Sickened? Yeah.
I mean, when we first... sorry, no, I'll come to you, but I was just going to say, when I first heard about it, I had two immediate reactions. First one was complete shock, the level of how far they'd got with organising. And I thought, blimey, you know, you've got people resign from positions in UEFA to take up positions on this new board. This feels like more of a done deal than I could ever have expected. My second reaction was a very Leicester City reaction. Thank God we're not in that. You know, now, if we get into the Champions League this year, like everyone else, I will be excited if we can play Juventus and Real Madrid and all of these clubs. And maybe we could get in the Champions League for a couple of years. I think the second year would be exciting as well. Over a 10, 15, 20-year period, I don't want to watch Leicester City playing Juventus or Barcelona every single week. Frankly, I want to watch us playing West Ham, Crystal Palace, Newcastle, and all the teams that we traditionally have rivalries and history with. And I honestly think that most fans in the Premier League would say that, and I honestly think that virtually all the fans in the Big Six would say that as well. So I think they are massively flawed in their thinking, unless they think that the markets in Asia and Africa more than make up for that. And actually, they've watched the last year playing in front of empty stadia and said, you know what? We can probably get away without the UK fan base at all, really. There's a much bigger market out there. But the important thing from the Leicester point of view, Norman, I'll let you have your say now, but within this context, so I think there's three scenarios that could play out, and I might have missed one. One is it's a bluff. So they're bluffing. They just want to get more money out of the Champions League, more favourable type of Champions League. That has to be a possibility. The second scenario is that the Super League does take place with those clubs still in the Premier League. So I have a question. I'd like you to think about these scenarios from Leicester City's point of view. And one obvious one that springs to mind there is that the top four becomes an irrelevant competition. So Arsenal are never going to win the Premier League, but they'll always qualify for that. What on earth are Arsenal Football Club ever playing for in that scenario again? The third one is that the Super League takes place and UEFA are good as their word and do throw them out. At that point, the strongest club in this country becomes us.
Oh God, it's I think that if my gut feeling is that it's not a total bluff, but I think that they're posturing for more money. They've done this for years. I mean, it's always been on the cards, hasn't it? In the background, that little threats of this league. This is obviously the closest they've actually come, and the fact that they're making, the people have resigned, etc. It's a concern. I am desperately hoping that UEFA and the Premier League are strong enough to stick to their guns. And of those three scenarios you've said there, if they do go for this Super League, then those teams should not be allowed to play in the Premier League, and therefore we would be, if not one of the strongest teams around. And I'm if you don't mind me just moving away from that a little bit, I'm actually very grateful today hearing the fans of those, again, the speech mark Big Six. I'm very, very grateful to hear the reaction of nearly all the fans, accepting that this is the embarrassment that their clubs are involved in it. It's refreshing, and there is unity behind, completely for everyone that this is not the right thing. I don't think I've heard anyone come up with anything particularly positive to say about it whatsoever, and that gives me hope that it will eventually be sort of shot down in flames. But if you don't mind me coming and challenging you, Tim, you said you felt that the Big Six had misread this. I don't think they've misread this at all. I think the owners have no interest and no understanding of what football means to communities and fans and this country and worldwide. All they are interested in, and Killis mentioned this, is the balance sheet. And they are running these clubs as a business, and the Premier League has become a victim of its own success. It's where all the money is. So all these owners are wanting to come in and take a piece of the action. And surprise, surprise, the piece of the Premier League pie, which is absolutely enormous, is not quite big enough because they think they can get a little bit more from somewhere else. And interestingly, help all the European sides out. Because you know what? The British sides, the English sides do not need this Super League. It is Juventus. It's the Italian sides and the Spanish that need this. We don't. And I think it's a little bit of a shame that we don't operate on the German model, which is like I don't fully understand how it goes. I'm not going to be worse. I'm not going to pretend to, but it's like a 50+1 thing where fundamentally it prevents really rich owners coming in and doing what they're doing to the game, which is probably why teams like Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund are, whilst I'm sure if it comes to fruition, will end up having no choice but to be in it, but they're stepping away from it at the moment because they haven't, their clubs are run by fans. It's just a huge concern, but gut feeling is it won't happen because of this reaction. I do think that eventually someone's got to sit down and think, you know what, it does matter so much to everyone that this isn't going to work.
Now, let me come back to you on the misread point, and then, Killer, I want to throw you a situation over. So the reason I think there's a big misread on there, but apparently there's 5 billion in it for them. There's 3.3 billion in the current Champions League, so they get more money. We know how the football club models work. 70 or in many cases nearer 80% of turnover goes on player wages. The desire to have the best players in that scenario will be higher than ever. And as you've alluded to, Norm, actually the split of the cash will go to non-English clubs in a much more beneficial way than it currently does. More and more of that money will just clearly go to the players because they're all going to need the best players to try and get to the top of that league. So all I see is player wages within that league spiraling much, much higher. And I'm not sure the clubs are particularly going to be that much better off. But Killer, here's one for you. We have regularly talked about our admiration for Harry Kane, who, by the way, did you notice he finally got a haircut? Unlike Pogba, who's had 3 or 4 in this lockdown somewhere, Harry Kane finally got his haircut, I noticed. So fair play to him. He just does everything right, doesn't he? And in that scenario where UEFA do stand firm and say you're not playing not only in the domestic leagues, but you may not play for your countries anymore, much like the scenario that some listeners will remember back with Kerry Packer in the cricket, back in the 80s, I think it was, when a Revel tour was set up. They were not allowed to play for their countries. Now, if that happens, here's one for you, Killer. Harry Kane it's widely documented he may well leave Spurs this summer. Let's say he can double his money going to one of those clubs, but as the captain of England, you will never play for England again. Where does he go?
There's no chance at all, given the fact that Harry Kane's a good lad, that he would ever not play for England. But you're quite right. It's an interesting one. It's just a really, really horrible scenario. Well, I tell you what was really interesting is already, and you've got to bear in mind, to be a manager and a player now of those 6 teams is absolutely horrific, isn't it? Because that's all you're going to get asked. Straight away, the microphone's been wedged underneath Jurgen Klopp's chin this evening, and he's come out straight away and says he doesn't like it. He wasn't consulted. The players haven't been consulted. Now, interestingly, no German teams involved in it, and obviously, when I say no French teams, he's principally talking about PSG. But straight away, potentially, they could be 2 clubs or 3 or 4 clubs that might be turning around and offering lifeboats to some of these footballers, going, do you want to play? Do you want to carry on playing for your club?
Yeah.
Well, come and play for us then. And then all of a sudden you go, this could then become absolutely ridiculous. One point, I'm just going to totally endorse what you've just said, Tim. Roman Abramovich has never made a penny out of Chelsea. He's invested millions and millions and millions. And apparently the only reason he's ever done it is because now the whole world knows Roman Abramovich, and therefore it gives him a business advantage when he's doing deals. So you're quite right. More cash doesn't mean that he's going to be able to take any. It just means all the players, the agents, the transfer fees around those clubs goes up. And you're quite right. I think it's a misread. I think it's a miscalculation. It looks at this stage. I don't think it will go ahead because I think public opinion will and the ramifications are going to be so severe that the players will turn around and go, if you do this, I'm out. Not all of them, but you'll certainly find out who your real mercenaries are, won't you?
Absolutely. This story will hopefully run. There could be a decent ending in this for City. I think once again our owners would have conducted themselves in the right way had they been offered, unlike those small teams like Arsenal and Spurs that were instead. But there we go. I'm sure they would have said no. I'm absolutely confident they would have said no.
Tim, can I just go for it? Sorry, one more brief thing, and I'm sorry to my brother-in-law George, who is an Arsenal fan, but the fans are against this. Just a little fact: there are 19 clubs that are not going to be in the Super League that have reached the Champions League quarter-finals, including Leicester, since Arsenal were last in the Champions League quarter-finals. Very interesting. Not shouldn't be there.
Arsenal's the one that I find amazing because with respect, and even if there's a fair equal portion of the money, they will not be able to compete in that league. They can't compete in this league. They will
look
not.
at Spurs.
What will they be playing for every week?
One thing. What about Spurs? 7th in the league, sack the manager today. Do you know what it feels like, guys? It feels like a fat bloke, brackets Arsenal, has been asked out by Cameron Diaz, brackets European Super League, and they've just turned around and gone, Who me? You want me? Yes,
where's the catch?
Yeah. No, I used to be thin and in shape, but look at the state of me now. Where Cameron's going, no, I want you. I'm literally just opening the duvet up, and the fat bloke sort of get. That's what it feels like of Arsenal. It's embarrassing. Seriously.
What a wonderful analogy to leave that slot on. So superbly put, Killer. Right, we have got a double game week coming up in terms of West Brom and Palace then, and it's we never like to look too far ahead in terms of the Palace game, but to set the scene, City have got 4 games that look eminently winnable and then 4 games that looks much more tricky. We reckon going back 2 or 3 weeks ago, we probably need 12 points. Could end up being 13, but perhaps 12 points. If we were to get them in the first 4 games, it would give us all a few less sleepless nights. So looking ahead to a resurgent West Brom, Norm. Resurgent, but probably not quite going to make it. How are we feeling about that one?
Look, I've got to feel pretty confident. I think they're basically down, but of the 2 games, I would suspect this would be the more challenging one. But look, they've had a good little run. We've just got to the FA Cup final. I mean, we're going to be on a high. The players are going to be playing for their places, and I think the confidence that yesterday would have given the club will be more than enough to see us through. They can be dangerous, but so can any Premier League side. But if we don't win these or get at least 10 out of the 12 points in these next 4 games, then really we probably don't deserve it. I mean, we're good enough to do this. So I've got no real fears apart from the normal nervousness of being a Leicester fan and playing any other team. It's going to be a challenge, but I'm sure we'll win the game fairly comfortably.
Is there any danger, Killer, of us taking our foot off the gas, protecting ourselves against injuries ahead of a cup final? Some of our, Schmeichel, Vardy, a number of them might not get another shot at the cup final.
I just get the feeling, but with Brendan in charge, he'll make it very clear that unless you play well, then your place is up for grabs. So I think it's a good question, Tim. No, I don't see that. And ultimately, let's be honest, you're still down to what do you want? Do you want to win an FA Cup or do you want to play in the Champions League next season? I don't know the answer to that, but if I was a player, the answer really would be both. Yeah. So I think each game as it comes. I'm going to make a really bold prediction. We can keep that back 3 fit. Then I think we've got the opportunity of heading into that FA Cup final unbeaten.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That'd be magic, wouldn't it? Right, so we're coming on to our predictor table with the ever-reliable Trump Wales IPA. And with the Saints game, Norm and I, it was prediction within 90 minutes. So Norm and I had us to win. Killer had us at 2-2 for that point. So Norm and I picked up a point, leaving Killer on 12, me on 20, and Norm on 23 with a double game week. So, Norm, can I have your predictions for West Brom and Palace, please?
You certainly can. I am going to go for the same score for both games, and I'm going to go for 3-0 Leicester wins.
Cool. Go on then, Killer. Top that.
I'm going to go for 2-0 against West Brom. We haven't really touched on Palace, so I will touch on it briefly. I don't think there's a better fixture this time of year than Crystal Palace. They're always safe.
Brilliant.
And they always just totally just give points away this end of the season. So I'm going to go for 3-0 Leicester against Palace.
I think that's an excellent point, Killer, about Palace. They'll be on the beach, 100%. So Yeah, very good.
And I'm going to go 3-1 against West Brom and 2-1 against Palace. So if you want to get in touch with us on this week of all weeks and share your thoughts and excitement about our fantastic achievement in getting to the cup final, it's Leicester City Pubcast at gmail.com. And if you don't want to get in touch with us, that's fine too. Just enjoy these moments and we'll catch you next week. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed the Leicester City Pubcast, please subscribe and tell everyone about it. If you hated the Leicester City Pubcast, please keep it to yourselves. See you next week.